I just want to give everyone a huge welcome for being here at this Brew City Match event. Who I am and what I'm doing will become a little more apparent as we move forward. My name is Adam Carr, and Beth Haskovic from LISC and from Brew City Match asked me to add a little pizzazz to this Zoom event. I think probably all of us have been to a few too many Zoom events by now. So she invited me into this event, this launch for Brew City Match, as to think a little bit of how we can add some storytelling elements, and that will become more apparent as we move through. With that, actually, I would like to do something I think no one has done in person yet, which is, as our very first person to kick us off, I would like to welcome the new executive director of LISC Milwaukee, Theo Lipscomb, to just say, to give us a greeting and give us an introduction to what we'll be doing. So Theo, this is your first public appearance with a bunch of other people and a bunch of rectangles. Thanks for being here.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Adam, and thanks, everybody. It looks like we've got over almost 60 people here this morning, which is a great turnout virtually. Hopefully you all can hear me. If there is a problem, let me know. I've had a few calls where I had trouble, and then I'll have to put the headphones on. So first off, thanks everyone for joining us this morning. I am Theo Lipscomb. I'm the new executive director for LISC Milwaukee. Joined just last week, and the announcement just came out. So if you didn't know, you're not late. Not late to no one. But I'm really excited to be here. For those who don't know, I used to be the county board chairman here in Milwaukee, served on the county board for 12 years, 5 as the chair, and have a history before that of working in community development, both doing affordable housing and economic development with Keith back on the Main Street days, and with West End and Wisconsin Partnership for Housing Development, worked statewide doing HUD housing consulting. So very, very excited to join LISC and for the opportunities ahead to bring additional resources to our city, to work with our neighborhood partners and all of you to build more housing and to grow business. So very excited to join LISC. It was the only thing that really interested me as I looked at what my options were after politics. So really excited to be here, and it's an honor to be able to kick us off today. I know a lot of you have a longer history with Brew City Match than I do, so I appreciate all the work that's gone into getting us here to round 3. But I wanted to kick off today, talk a little bit about, first off, for those who don't know, besides not knowing me, if you don't know what LISC is, I should let you know. Local Initiative Support Corporation is a national organization. We have 35 local offices, of which Milwaukee is over 25 years. LISC has invested about $1.6 billion last year across the country, including here in Milwaukee. So both investing in housing, investing in programs like this for business development, as well as many would probably know our 15-year history of working with the ACRE program and growing a cohort of local minority developers. So we're proud of that history. We're continuing that work. We think we've got a good start, but we want to do so much more. And with all of you, we'll be able to do that. So I want to first, kick off talking about Brew City Match, and just for those who don't know, talk about the origins and how it came to be in terms of the funders that came together. So first off, I want to recognize JP Morgan Chase for making a $3.5 million investment through their Pro Neighborhoods program. That's what seeded Brew City Match. We've also received significant local philanthropic support from Zilber Family Foundation, Greater Milwaukee Foundation, and American Family Insurance. Both Zilber and Greater Milwaukee Foundation provided some operating support to LISC, and all 3 funders additionally contributed to grant efforts to support small business relief, particularly this spring with response to COVID-19. So I want to recognize all of those funders, as well as thank our partners. We're going to hear a bit from the mayor in a moment. So partners in Brew City Match, obviously the city of Milwaukee, want to acknowledge the mayor and Department of City Development for their leadership, as well as the day-to-day work of their commercial corridor team. The Hmong American Chamber of Commerce, Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation, Columbia Savings and Loan, MEDC, and Milwaukee United are also our key partners in administering the program. And then our neighborhood partners, as you know, are Historic King Drive Bid, Near West Side Partners, Marketplace Bid number 32, and Clark Square Neighborhood Initiative. So that's a lot of people to come together, to work together to make this possible. And we'll talk some more about that. But obviously for LISC and for the partners, the key to this is trying to grow local indigenous business that we want to, it's part of our anti-displacement strategy that we want to make sure that neighborhoods are growing with the people who are there and not just outside investors. So I think it's important that we do this work to grow local access to capital, local access to opportunity, and that we have a wider, more equal prosperity for all. So I want to take, if he's ready, I want to introduce my friend, Mayor Barrett, who's going to make a few remarks. Mayor Barrett and I have worked together, obviously, for a number of years in government. He's a big fan of our Milwaukee neighborhoods and a big booster. And I know that he's proud of the work of Brew City Match and wants us to do so much more. So if you are ready, Mayor Barrett.
Thank you very much, Theo. And first of all, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Nice place to be. And that's for all of you, if you know Theo or you don't, I can tell you that is a very genuine smile. I think he is truly happy to be where he is. And I think LISC is fortunate to have him, and he's fortunate to have LISC. My history with LISC goes back. I was at the initial celebration of bringing LISC to Milwaukee 25 years ago. I was a member of Congress at the time. I was on the banking committee, and I worked with a number of individuals, including Jerry Levy, who recently passed away, who spearheaded the effort to bring LISC here. So we've come a long way. But the Brew City Match is something that I absolutely love. And JP Morgan Chase obviously has been the one that has spearheaded this here with the incredible partnership that we have developed. And I see Charlie Corrigan, who's on the phone, and he's done a lot of work. But there are so many partners, and I'm going to be careful not to name all the partners because I'll forget somebody. But this is, I think, exactly what the doctor ordered. So here we are in this horrific year, if I can say that. Coming into this year, I have to tell you, I was perhaps a little guilty of hubris because I was thinking, all right, we've got 20,000 more jobs in Milwaukee than we did 10 years ago. Our crime has gone down 4 years in a row, our violent crime. We're going to have the Bucks in the NBA championship, and we're going to have the DNC in Milwaukee. It looked to be a year unlike any year we were ever going to have in our history. And unfortunately, that was the only part that I was right on, is that it's a year unlike any year we've ever had in our history. But for many reasons that were not related to what I was thinking about in December. So we are being challenged like we have never, ever been challenged before. And whether it's the COVID-19, whether it's the economic tsunami that followed that, whether it's the fights for racial justice that we know are important for our community, we have a lot of work to do. But at the front of that, of course, is how do we bring and inject and develop stronger economic life into our commercial corridors within the city. And I never really like using the word corridors because it sort of connotes that you're just trying to travel through. And I think one of the strengths of the Brew City Match and all the work that you're doing collectively is we do not want these areas, whether it's historic Martin Luther King Drive, whether it's Fond du Lac and North Avenue, whether it's Cesar Chavez Drive on the south side, we do not want them to be corridors that people are traveling through. We want them to be places that are growing flowers, as I would describe it, and getting stronger by having stronger roots and by having more active businesses within the communities themselves. And again, that is the strength of the Brew City Match. It's leveraging all the work, whether it's the Hmong Business Association, whether it's individual businesses themselves, whether it's WIBIC, whether it's the help from WIDA, whether it's all of the work that's being done by the foundation community. It's how do we be there to help businesses grow. And I see Caitlin Cullen and the work she's doing at Tandem, which is so important. This is what we want to do. We want to develop more businesses within these neighborhoods, within the neighborhoods themselves. And that is the strength and the beauty of the Brew City Match. So I am just excited that we're going into our third phase, if you want to call it that. I have always enjoyed going to the small businesses as they open, whether they're on the north side or the south side, as part of this program, because I know how important this is. What we have to do is we have to create more positive economic activity in the neighborhoods where we need it the most. And I see this as one of the most significant efforts that we are doing. And the fact that it's a partnership with so many of you, this feels like a giant Hollywood Squares game for me with all of you in your Zoom rooms there. But this is what we got to do, is we got to bring it together and create even more economic opportunities for individuals and families. So again, I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be part of this. And Adam, keep up the great work. So back over to you, Adam.
Thanks, Mayor Barrett. Theo, I think you are.
Sorry,
muted.
there we go. Thank you, Mayor Barrett. I appreciate you helping kick us off, and I know you're a big fan. I don't know if how much of this you'll be able to stay for, but obviously your corridors team at DCD is keeping up the work with us, so I appreciate that. I want to now kick it back over to Adam Carr. Adam will be our MC today. If you don't know, he's a neighborhood storyteller and tour guide. If you like him today and you want more, I hear he's got a book called Explore Milwaukee. So, Adam, look forward to hearing what you have for us today. Thanks.
Thanks, Theo. So let me start by the topic of the event as it was presented to you all and you signed up on the Eventbrite, was the butterfly effect. The butterfly effect, just to give us some definition on it, is the idea that something small that happens in one place can ripple outwards, multiply, and have a big effect somewhere else. And we picked the butterfly very intentionally as a topic for this conversation, because if a butterfly flaps its wings in Milwaukee, it could maybe cause a hurricane in Tokyo, or if a butterfly flaps its wings in Kenosha, maybe up in Superior, Wisconsin, there's a rainstorm. But very specifically on our commercial corridors, on our main streets, we see when one business comes into existence, all the different, maybe unintentional, but certainly incredible impacts it can have throughout the community. And that's something that I've really made my career following. I've worked in radio, I've worked in, I've done some filmmaking, photography, writing, telling stories of Milwaukee. And what I find continuously in that work is one person starts something and then the ripples of what they do continues throughout history, continues within their neighborhood, inspires other people. So one of the ways in which I have had the opportunity to, we're going to be looking at a bunch of images now, share kind of these butterfly effects that exist all over the city, is through tour giving. So I really love giving tours. It's probably my favorite thing to do. I think it's very challenging to give tours. To offer someone a direct experience of the city is really important. But then there's a lot of other factors to keep in mind. When you bring someone into a neighborhood, it's a living, breathing place. There's actually, I think, the potential to create harm when you're doing a tour. So for me, what's always been really at the core of doing tours is collaborating with community members. I just wanted to share some of these images with you all to remind you of the city that we live in. If you're like me, maybe Milwaukee's been a little bit at arm distance for the last stretch, but there are these remarkable places, these remarkable experiences that are embedded all throughout our city, and particularly in North and South Side neighborhoods. These are just some of the images from some of the tours that I've led in the past, in collaboration with wonderful community members. Sometimes tours can be a way of bridging across communities, but they can also be a way of bridging within communities. One of the things I love to do is bringing people to places within their own neighborhood that they may have overlooked or not been invited to before. So into backyards, into places that might be tucked away or hidden. So, and I will say businesses have always been small businesses, local businesses like Lopez Bakery, like Las Palmas on Mitchell Street, like the former location of the Juice Kitchen had been a lifeblood of tours for me. Going to places like Glorious Malone's Fine Sausage, where people might have driven by 1,000 times, but not been introduced to the rich, multi-generational family story that's inside, and literally get to learn how the sausage is made. Places like Fondy Market, all these different places, going and seeing Elmer's, his side business, making denim. These are things, I mean, these are the things that make me passionate and love Milwaukee. Milwaukee is constantly filling up my tank of critique, but then going and seeing the remarkable things that business owners do on a daily basis fuels me back up with hope and inspiration. So I get to do these tours. A couple years ago, actually in 2015, for their year-end celebration, I did this tour with New Life, which is at 20th and North Avenue. It's a wonderful youth program that does after-school and summer programming. They normally go to Chicago for their year-end celebration. This year, we took cues from Amanda Avalos's wonderful Milwaukee Beautiful idea, and we explored Milwaukee the Beautiful. So we went around Milwaukee. We had these incredible experiences, not somewhere else. We didn't have to go somewhere else to seek world-class stuff. We found it right in our own backyard. And this experience with New Life, I've loved over the years working with them any chance I get. And just last year, I was thinking about how can I start building in a more direct way collaboration with some of community members and build tours from the ground up, not just collaborate with people. And I've collaborated with many people on the Zoom to do tours, but how can we from the very beginning start to do a tour? So I went to New Life and I said, do you think any of your youth would be interested in doing a tour with me? And Beth, can you unmute the New Life folks?
We're unmuted.
All right, so these three people, actually, can you see my cursor? This person, and this person are with us on Zoom today. Can you guys introduce yourselves? Tamisha and then Destiny.
Hi, my name is Tamisha, and I'm 18.
Hi, my name is Destiny, and I'm 17 years old.
Hi, my name is Elton, and I'm 16 years old.
So you guys, we know each other pretty well right now, but when you first heard about doing a tour and you were kind of put in this group to do a tour, what were your first thoughts when you thought about giving a tour of the city?
Well, when I first heard about that we was doing a tour of the city, I was kind of nervous, but also I was kind of nervous, but I was also kind of open to the fact that I was learning about Black-owned businesses. And it just kind of opened my eyes a little bit more.
Cool. Destiny, what were you thinking?
When I first heard about doing tours, I thought it was going to be boring, of course, because I don't really like exploring anything. But once I met you actually, we started getting tours together, it was actually fun, and now I like it. It's very interesting.
Cool. Tamisha, what did you think?
When we first started doing tours, the first question that popped up in my head was, what are we going to do a tour about?
For sure. So I appreciate your honesty, all of you. And Destiny, I totally came into the experience expecting that you might have some skepticism about doing a tour, that it might feel like it might be boring, that you might not know what we were going to do. So what I thought is the first thing I did is what the methodology I have for giving tours is bring them somewhere that's interesting and let them discover it for themselves. So the very first place we went was Pete's Fruit Market on King Drive. And then we went to the Bronzeville Collective MKE. And what did you guys think, Tamisha, or Destiny, what did you think when we first walked into this space right on the corner of Phillips and North Avenue?
I was very fascinated by it because I didn't expect something like that nice to be in that neighborhood, because the MLK, down MLK is filled with abandoned buildings, abandoned houses, abandoned anything basically. So then when we actually rode past this and seeing something that was actually owned by Black African American women, I found it very interesting because you don't really see that out here.
Ellen, what do you think?
So when I first walked into the Brownsville Collective, it made me wonder. It made me very curious about how did you make this happen? What were you thinking when you made this art? What type of effort did you put into it? And different questions like that.
For sure. And when we walked away, we didn't come into the experience of making a tour knowing it would be about Black-owned businesses. But between Phillips and 20th on North Avenue, the group was in total consensus that they wanted to do Black-owned businesses as a theme for our tour together. Tamisha, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we all decided on doing Black-owned businesses once we learned more about the area and stuff, because we didn't know that with a lot of Black-owned businesses that they keep the money within the community and it circle around first before it go out everywhere else. And that was one of the things that intrigued us and made us decide that this is what we wanted to do with our first tour.
For sure. And we got to go to some really great places around the city, including your first trip to Sherman Phoenix. Elton, what was it like to walk into the Sherman Phoenix for the first time?
When I walked into the Sherman Phoenix, I seen all these Black-owned businesses, and it inspired me of what I can do and what I can be in the future.
For sure. Cool. So we, through the course of developing this tour, one of the things I wanted to make sure we did is we learned some history that we don't learn often enough in Milwaukee. What you're seeing right now is a green book from the city, for the whole state of Wisconsin from the year 1950. At that period of time, Milwaukee had one of the wealthiest Black communities in the entire country and had the highest Black-owned business per capita in the entire country. That's a stat that Reggie Jackson loves to share. And I'm just showing you this is just one of the pages within that book. Notice, I'll read the headings off for you. There's dress shops, dressmakers, drugstores, electrical appliances, electrical contractors, employment, entertainers, express companies, filling stations, firemen, floor service, florists, fuel companies. Then look at all these incredible, these were all Black-owned businesses. Look at the addresses. 10th Street, 7th Street, Brown Street, Walnut, 7th, 3rd Street, 10th Street, Walnut Street. What this demonstrates is the remarkable power of Black business in Milwaukee in 1950 in the industrial heyday of Milwaukee. This is where it was located, Walnut Street. Every single one of these buildings that you see here has been destroyed through urban renewal projects, some by the highway, but some simply by other methods. So Walnut Street was this beautiful, incredible hub of Black business, not just locally, but nationally, this incredible wellspring. This is a wonderful, this is actually an artwork by Sylvester Sims. So this is another way that Bronzeville looked. And this is an area we call Bronzeville. I wanted to just share this. We also looked at these redlining maps. So as we talk about the history of investments, it's also important that we talk about the question of what happened to it, not just urban renewal, but policies like this, redlining, which existed, all of these red neighborhoods that you see, which is where predominantly Black and brown people lived, and poor European immigrants, had denied from them systematically any financial product, including loans, insurance, bank accounts even. So this is just an example of the kind of notes you can see that this is from 1937. This isn't just a guy on Reddit spewing racism. This is an actual federal document. You can see here detrimental influences, Negro and slum area, condemnation proceedings going on. This is a little bit small, but the clarifying remarks. This is the Negro and slum area of Milwaukee. It is old and very ragged. Besides the colored people, a large number of lower type Jews are moving into the section. The section housed Milwaukee's wealthiest family 70 years ago. So it's important that we see documents like this, because these aren't accidents. These are what shape the history that we live in currently. Just one thing to look at really quickly too is the restrictive real estate covenants that also shaped our region. I won't go into that too much. Then also highway construction, because for the specific tour that we did on Black-owned business, I want to share a little bit of the construction of I-43 and then the subsequent Park West Freeway. In the late 60s and into the early 70s, it leveled thousands of homes around the city, but it was particularly impactful in Black neighborhoods. I'm going to show you this. I made this little illustration here. Everyone look down here on Walnut Street. This is where all those businesses that I just showed you were. And keep your eyes right here, because from 1951 to 1963, every single one of those structures was destroyed. Now keep your eyes up here, up on here. All right, you have the entire path of I-43 get carved out, and you can actually see extending out northwest a little bit, buildings being destroyed. The highway comes into focus and you see destruction over here. Really quickly, I'm gonna get here. This is the Park West corridor, North Avenue, 27th, 35th. Between 1963, 1967, very little change. Watch this. That is like a bomb going off and leveling the center of the city. So the reason, and then it's not redeveloped for 10 years after the Sherman Park Community Association defeats it essentially through a lawsuit. It's never built, but the reinvestment doesn't happen. The reason I want to mention all of this is because this is kind of the background of what we're talking about. The black-owned businesses in Milwaukee once thrived, and they were systematically destroyed essentially through a lot of government-driven policies. So, all right, sorry, that was me kind of ranting and raving a little bit. I want to come back to my beautiful New Life collaborators. Can you guys talk a little bit? These are images from the tour that they led for their peers at New Life. Can you talk a little bit about what it was like to lead your first tour? Tamisha, why don't you start?
It was very opening to lead my first tour, because I was not the type of person to like get up in front of a big crowd and just talk to people. But because of the topic that we were talking about, Black-owned business, I felt that we all could relate, because a lot of New Life students, when they grow up, they want to be entrepreneurs themselves, and what's not a good way to open them up to Black-owned business entrepreneurs. And they set like a role model example for us, and we wanted to pass that on down to other New Life students, our peers, and help them see what we saw within our tour.
Elton, what do you think?
I felt, once again, kind of nervous, but I was still open to the fact of learning about Black-owned businesses. And it also was, the tour was kind of inspiring after meeting fellow entrepreneurs like Manan and Lilo and Venus and all those other entrepreneurs.
For sure. So, Destiny, do you want to share a little bit? Notice I took this picture and Sharon Adams is making a cameo there. I think that's cute. Can you tell me a little bit, Destiny, about your favorite part of the tour?
My favorite part of the tour was the meeting Adija. I said that because she actually influenced me a lot, and I really took what she said to heart. She basically told us that you can easily do something that you love and make it a business, like an everyday thing. And another thing she told us is that you always have to strive hard in order to get what you want to get. And I really took that to heart, because I'm going to try to do that. And I really love what she said.
For sure. So I think, all right, we're going to come back to you guys in a moment. Thank you so much. I think that last point that you made there, Destiny, I think that speaks a little bit to just the fact that a lot of times our business owners, our small business owners in our community become incredible leaders. And speaking of which, that's my transition to go to Caitlin from the tandem. After we did our first tour with New Life, for our second tour, we didn't have a topic yet, and we went from New Life on 20th and North, and we were going to walk to the tandem, where we like to go and eat and do some brainstorming. So Caitlin, I just want to talk to you for a minute here. Can you talk a little bit? I know a lot of folks in this room know what's been going on in the last few months, which has been inspiring and incredible and world-class. Can you talk a little bit about your experience of COVID-19 and how it fits into the conversation we're having right now about Brew City Match?
Yeah, so since the pandemic hit Milwaukee specifically, I mean, it hit the entire world, but since it kind of arrived on our doorstep, we really thought we were probably going to lose our business. And so we decided that instead of just shuttering the doors and hunkering down, we would try and help folks in our community. So we're all service workers here, myself included. I don't really make a lot of money at this gig. And so when something like this puts you out of work, there's no savings to fall back on. There's not any food at the house because you're used to eating at your restaurant job. And we decided that we were going to try and cook everything that would otherwise go to waste, and start distributing it to people in our community. I mean, Lindsay Heights is a really tight-knit spot. And a lot of our friends and neighbors also work like shift gigs. And so without that option for income, it was important to kind of step up. And so we've been handing out free meals here, some of it with the support of LISC that helped us pay our rent for like the first month when we were like, what the fuck are we going to do? And we've been handing out free meals here for almost 4 months.
For sure.
And I can ramble as much as you want, but lead me in a better direction.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, one thing you've been, that I know about you is that you're, it's not just you, right? There's kind of a lot of people behind the scenes who have been pitching in. You're incredibly magnanimous and gracious about everything that you've been able to accomplish. So talk just a little bit about Brew City Match and when that came in and what that helped you stop worrying about.
Yeah, Brew City Match really took the pressure off for that split second, because that was one of the first things out of the gate. You know, we're still waiting on support from all different levels, but Brew City Match was there within the first couple of weeks when we were really just kind of scrapping by, and it helped us maintain not the full amount of staff we have, but a staff of 6, which is pretty huge. It helped us kind of patch through that really uncertain time, which then thematically to this butterfly effect thing you're talking about got us to the point where we were able to distribute meals and not really worry about every bill and run on donations for about a month, which ended up landing us like a huge $500,000 partnership with Chef Jose Andreas' foundation, the World Central Kitchen. And so we were able to take that money and pay out over $430,000 to Milwaukee area restaurants, a lot of them Black-owned businesses or businesses of color, and make sure that, you know, we made it through our uncertain time, and then we were able to distribute that funding to other restaurants so that they could make it through that next patch of uncertain time. And as we're all coming up for air and realizing that, like, we might or may not be able to survive this, at least that first 3 months was something people were able to make it through, get their heads on straight, take a deep breath, and then decide what the next step was.
For sure. Well, Caitlin, thank you. I mean, one thing I just want to add from what I know from what Beth shared with me about what LISC did is essentially the Brew City Match Funds really existed to attract new businesses to the area, and they quickly pivoted to support existing businesses. So they essentially, in a really short period of time, figured out how they could use money to support rent, payroll, technology for reopening, creating a $325,000 fund. So, and to the butterfly effect. So thank you, Caitlin.
And I will say that they were really the first people to come out and support, right? We're all sitting around and the sky is falling and the world is on fire. And LISC was the first person in my inbox and the first person a part of this whole setup. And that really meant a lot. Robin hit me with that email right away, and then Beth was in my inbox. And then before you knew it, Julie got some rent from me, which she wasn't going to get otherwise.
Sure. Perfect. Cool. So
Thank you, guys.
That's a perfect transition to our next folks. So, let's talk a little bit with Robin and Marie. So just to get us back into, we were walking from New Life to the Tandem. We saw this storefront, which we didn't even know could exist where it existed. And it was for this incredible brand that I've come since to know named Classic. Marie, can you share just a little bit about what Classic is, getting it started, and your experience starting your own small business?
So yeah, Classic actually started because my background is in education, and so listening to the kids talk just as a background and just hearing their experience and how they've learned so much was really touching, because that's really a lot of the reason why I started Classic. I've been in education, and when it came to teaching about culture, I really found that some of my African American students kind of struggled with identifying what that was and how it's maybe different from pop culture or what it even is. So I started Classic as a way to help to highlight portions of my culture, because there's so many different layers to it and inspirations, you know, that shape it. So I really wanted to just kind of highlight some of those things and give kids a way, and not just kids, but give people a way to be proud of something, and really kind of understand the background of it, as opposed to just the face value and the, you know, normal images we may see, Tupac and Biggie. But I really wanted to kind of teach about the history behind it, and some of the little known pieces of hip hop and culture that people may not know about. So again, it was just really touching that your group came by and was so eager to learn not only about the brand, but about entrepreneurship, because you know, that is something that kind of has been I don't know, something that I didn't even intentionally mean to be inspirational with. I don't know if you guys saw, but I have a little one running around. So being able to you know, kind of show her in the future, you know, different ways of making a living and doing it with something that you're passionate about was important to me. But also, you know, showing kids and kids like your group, it's just been a neat kind of byproduct from it that I didn't even expect to happen. So,
For sure. So you landed on Fond du Lac in a space that we didn't even know could be retail. So that's one of the other behind the scenes that Brew City Match did. They made a grant to Bob Lemke and his partners to convert an open office space into the storefront that you were in, which I think, you know, there's a lot of behind the scenes work done by Brew City Match, not just to support businesses, but also building owners. And Robin, and people who run bids, can you talk a little bit, so you run the Fond du Lac bid, can you talk a little bit about that bid, what it is, what its identity and personality is?
Sure. Hello, everyone that I can't see. I'm in my car because this is life these days and we're always moving. So I'm happy to be here this morning. But the Fond du Lac and North Avenue bid, everything that you pretty much spoke about this morning, is located in our fabulous corridor. So I'm very happy to lead that. My boundaries are on North Avenue from 8th to 27th, and on Fond du Lac from 17th to 27th. And we are mostly known identified by the Lindsay Heights neighborhood. However, the bid does actually cross about 4 neighborhoods, including the Amani neighborhood as well. But Lindsay Heights is known for we're the first eco neighborhood in the city of Milwaukee, meaning that we have a lot of environmentally friendly things there that people probably have no idea are there. There are fruit orchards in the heart of Lindsay Heights. There, we have bioswale. We have Alice's Garden is irrigated by solar panels and things like that. The Fondy Food Center, Fondy Farmers Market has been in our community for over 100 years, and that is still there and thriving. And we're really known for, I think, the healthy foods, healthy neighborhoods, and that's kind of been our focus. So now with Brew City Match, we're able to not leave that focus, but to focus on complementing that and bringing in more retail and things that the community needs beyond food. We're blessed to have the foods that we have. We have Save-A-Lot grocery store, as well as a lot of the fresh fruits and vegetables that people have access to, but people also need your basic needs, whether it's clothing and shoes, self-care kind of things. You mentioned the spot that Marie was in. There's actually 3 retail spaces that were able to be made there by us giving the grant to Bob Lemke that were, it was actually office space that was underutilized, and just with being able to give them a grant to put up some walls on space that actually already had windows and a storefront appearance, we're able to actually make 3 retail spaces in that space, and one of them is also a massage therapist. So we got a variety of businesses through the pop-up and Brew City Match program.
For sure. So Marie, really quickly, can you talk a little just a bit about your experience on Fond du Lac and having a pop-up store there?
So yeah, the pop-up MKE program was really great and giving me my first full space that I could operate out of. I did have a website presence and I had a shared space in some other locations, but this was the first time that I was able to operate a space on my own. So it helped me to just feel more legitimate, and then helped me to just figure out some things as far as operational wise, what I needed to do, what was, you know, some of my preferences as far as how to run the business. So it was really helpful in that sense.
And actually, we're running a little behind, so we're gonna need to keep moving. But can you talk about your ability to level up? Where did you take the business since then?
So the pop-up MKE program ended for me at the end of March, but since then I've been able to relocate in the Sherman Phoenix. And so I'm a part of the Underground Makers Market, which is a group of 3 other ladies, and we all are just local makers. And so we're located in the basement part of Sherman Phoenix now. We're actually having our grand opening this Saturday. So yeah, it's just been able to like meet new customers and broaden my, you know, base. Just, you know, being able to be a part of this program. So.
All right, thank you. And Robin, can you just bring us out like 20 seconds, just talk about a little bit of market analysis and your hopes for the future for the Fond du Lac bid?
My hopes is, as the theme of this event is the butterfly effect. That particular block that we're speaking of, I think, is a true example of that, and I want to see more of that. But where the pop-up shops were on that corner, on Fond du Lac, on that same block, you have the Tandem Restaurant. We have a new development, Adams Garden Park, which was developed by our amazing Sharon and Larry Adams, and that is open and running. And then finally, one of the current Brew City Match winners in this round that just was announced has the final building on the opposite corner, which will be a sit-down restaurant. And food and beverage is something that the market analysis showed that was wanted. So Favorites Restaurant will go on the end, and that will complete a full block of development that is a combination of retail, food, and office. And that just shows that when you invest in a space, that people want to be there and they want to be next to successful and thriving businesses, and the businesses feed off of each other. Just like the example you gave, you guys were going to Tandem to eat because you knew about Tandem, and you ended up staying the Classic shop, and then you met Marie and were introduced to the Classic brand. So my hopes is that the butterfly effect continues and goes on for blocks and blocks, and the same thing happens that happened between 18th and 19th in Fond du Lac.
Excellent. Thank you, Robin and Marie. Very much appreciate it. And just to tie in one quick thing, Christy mentioned in the comments that a piece of feedback that's often given from business owners, feedback is that it's so important to have a space to figure out what you're doing, the business side of things. So, all right, we're going to keep moving here. So to get you back into the story, myself, Destiny, Tamisha, and Elton are walking to the Tandem. We go to the Classic. Guys, we're running behind, so I want to jump right into this next section. So then we we're putting together our tour together. This is us in the Classic shop. Can you guys talk, let's skip the first section, jump right into the experience that you guys had of exploring these different pop-up shops in different parts of the city. Elton, can you talk about a little bit of what inspired you putting together the second tour?
Yeah, it was really inspiring to see African-American entrepreneurs at their greatest, but also expressing our culture in their own type of way.
For sure. And Destiny, what was for you in this, or actually, sorry, Tamisha, what did you feel in this experience? What inspired you through learning about these businesses?
What inspired me was the owners themselves. It was that there were, not because that we all looked alike with the same skin tone, it was that in the inside they strived for a deeper purpose, and they were like a role model, and we wanted to be that for our other new life peers. And so that took us to a whole nother level with the pop-up shops and then the Black-owned businesses, and it all came together in one, like the butterfly effect. It was like a butterfly effect for us as well.
For sure. And Destiny, what was your favorite part of putting together the second tour?
Mostly the cat part, but mainly when we got there, we didn't know them at all. When we got there, they were very welcoming. It's like when we got there, it's like we already knew them, but we didn't. And for them to be like that, it's very nice and respectful. And then because I would think because like we're a different race and we're not the same kind of ethnicity, they would be kind of like rude. But for them to welcome us like we're one of them, it was very nice. I liked it.
For sure. So we went down to Luna on the south side on Chavez Drive, and they were incredibly welcoming to us. Afterwards, the young people requested we go to get to El Rey to get some elotes, to eat some Mexican corn. And I think that's something. This was the tour that we ended up giving, the flyer. And actually, let's just jump into our next section. So, all right. So, Beth, could you unmute Isabel? So the second tour that we did brought us to different parts of the city, including Chavez Drive. And we wanted to introduce to you all a really remarkable artist who had the opportunity to do an artist residency on Chavez Drive, Isabel Castro. Isabel, can you just introduce yourself a little bit and where you were going into this residency?
Yes. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess to kind of go off of the theme of the butterfly effect, before, coming to this artist in residency, at the age of 16, I had the opportunity to engage with my community. I'm an Escuela Verde alumna, and being, in Escuela Verde, and I guess they really focused on how we could engage with our communities and what of our own assets, and also the opportunities that Milwaukee had, how can we, contribute? And so then I right away got connected with artists working in education and Artworks for Milwaukee, where they provided me the opportunity as a high school intern to work on community art projects. And two essential projects that kind of sparked something in me to continue this route as a community artist was one that was located on Cesar Chavez and Scott with the health equity mural of understanding the connection between diabetes type 2 with oral health, as well as the UMOS mural located on First and Mitchell, where it talked about the history of United Migrant Opportunity Services. And in those two community art projects, there was a lot of newfound knowledge that I was learning about, Milwaukee, especially in the 70s, with immigrant policies and movements that were happening for higher education, for minimum wage. And all of these collective experiences as an intern had an impact on me to continue developing my own practice in community art, as well as grant writing and project managing and planning. And so at the age of 17, I received my first grant, Escuela Verde, to create a mural there at Escuela Verde to give back to my own school of what I was learning from Milwaukee. And I continued to pursue this career. And this then led to the artist in residency on Cesar Chavez Drive.
So can you talk about the discoveries and the experience you had on Chavez Drive? So it's a place I know that you knew, but getting a chance to work more intentionally there. Yeah, so as an artist, I had worked with youth before and people my own age, but I really wanted to work with adults. So it was a studio space to have youth and adults work together collectively on different art mediums and projects. And something for me that was of discovery is that the whole mission of the studio project was to see how culture is used as a source of empowerment. And so adults had told their stories and how they had used their culture as a source of income. And youth used it as a form of a statement. And I wanted that to kind of pierce through the Tejiendo Raíces mural that is now located on Cesar Chavez along Mineral. Oh, wait, I love the picture. So my mornings consisted of, engaging with community members, but also this space then cultivated a source of like ownership,
where the families that I had been working with every weekend for a year, they started bringing food in. So not only were we creating art, but then we were also eating together every morning. So here, this is one of my students, Max, and he had tamales and champurrado on the morning of a Sunday morning. And so this is kind of these spaces that I was occupying in, then became occupied by people who were interested in these spaces that were once empty lots. So where my studios were along Cesar Chavez, then kind of brought interest of a pharmacy on the corner of Mineral. And so now what was once an empty lot is now occupied. And I was able to work with youth from Journey House, with Escuela Verde, and other families to have this Tejiendo Raíces mural be possible.
There it is. So which is this beautiful, iconic, I just want to point out one thing. This is me and my wife. This was the very day that we got back from a road trip that was our honeymoon from the top to the bottom of the Mississippi River. And sometimes coming back to Milwaukee can be hard, especially after a big adventure. The very first thing we did was go to your mural opening, and it made me be so glad to be back here in Milwaukee and experience the culture of Chavez Drive and your mural. So thank you so much, Isabel. And we're gonna keep moving. So thank you. And Ryan Shoney is up next from Journey House. Thank you, Isabel, so much for sharing your incredible gifts. Ryan is going to share with us the story of a business that they're developing at Journey House. So Ryan, talk just a little bit about the investment that Brew City Match has allowed for you to create with this cafe on 21st and Scott.
Sure. Good morning. So a few years ago, Journey House acquired a property on the corner of 21st and Scott Street. And as you can see from the photo, it's the building on the left side with multiple satellite dishes going on and boarded up windows and not looking so great. It was a hot spot for a lot of criminal activity. We acquired the property and turned it into housing as a part of our campus housing program with 3 units of affordable housing for young adults that have aged out of foster care in Milwaukee County. And when we rehabbed that property, it came with what was originally a storefront space, and we opened that storefront space back up with big glass windows, but didn't develop that space at the time. So several years later, we had the vision of creating a cafe in the space that would tie into our, and that's the building as it looks currently, it would tie into our workforce development program. And it would allow us to train young people, particularly in the culinary arts and in food service. And so the core vision of this new cafe space was to both do training, and we have a great partnership with Collectivo Coffee, and they're really teaching us a lot about how to serve exceptional food and beverage and to create an exceptional experience. But it's also, the space is about creating a neighborhood staple where we can really further develop community relationships and where we can serve healthy and delicious food on a regular basis. And the Brew City Match has allowed us to build out this space and to incorporate local art from fantastic artists like Isabel within the neighborhood.
So you guys are a nonprofit, but you own this building. You're a building owner. COVID-19, I know, has disrupted some of your plans, but can you talk a little bit about kind of in making long-term investments? Because I think some of us might know Brew City Match through the pop-up program, but it's also about creating lasting change into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So Journey House just celebrated its 50th anniversary this past year. So needless to say, we are in this for the long haul. We're in the South Side for the long haul. We're in Milwaukee for the long haul. And this business is a continuation of that vision, that philosophy, that reality. COVID threw us a curveball, and we're adapting with that, kind of changing our business model a little bit, looking at some of the new approaches that businesses across the world, particularly food businesses, are taking and doing in the short term more takeout oriented services. But still maintaining our core vision and values for this business, which is to be a neighborhood staple, to create new jobs, to deliver exceptional food and beverage, to do job training, and to be a real community asset. And long term, we hope that this space will also really be a fantastic asset for community members to gather, and we'll host different events from story slams and poetry readings to live music. We also partnered with the city of Milwaukee and created a meeting hub room, and the aim of that is to create a gathering space where a variety of elected officials, neighborhood representatives, and residents can gather to discuss important issues that are happening within our city, in a space that's naturally inviting, and a space that they want to come to get good food and beverage.
For sure. Thank you, Ryan. So speaking of, we're going to keep moving to Gina Stelp from the Zilber Family Foundation, the executive director there. So speaking of sustainable investment, Gina, I know you have to leave really soon. So can you talk a little bit about the history and evolution of the investment strategy of the Zilber Family Foundation?
Yes, so the foundation has always really been rooted in the belief that the best ideas and innovation are already in the communities where we're working. It's really about creating the resources and the tools and the pathways for all the talented folks who we've heard from today be able to access capital, be able to access resources. And so we really want to be a supporter of this ecosystem that I think we're hearing about today. It takes all these different parts for small businesses and for entrepreneurs to be able to be successful.
And so through the pandemic, I know it's obviously thrown a curveball to everyone involved. Can you talk a little bit about some of the learning points that you've had through your, as a foundation wanting to support neighborhood work, how the pandemic has challenged you and some of the insights that you've gained through these last few months?
Quick example, we were able to deploy some money pretty quickly through WIBIC and through our partners in Layton Boulevard to actually make small grants to businesses. We heard Caitlin talk about the stress of just being able to pay rent. And so, I think sometimes it's hard to get money out the door quickly and to get money directly to individuals or to business owners. And that's one of the needs that we're seeing. And so we're trying to be as flexible as we can be and use our capital in a little bit different way.
For sure. Cool. Well, anything else you want to add, Gina? Because I know you have to leave right now.
I would just say, I think it's so wonderful to hear from all these different players and really to help paint that picture of the number of partners that it takes to make a commercial corridor or to make one entrepreneur successful. And I think that's really the role that LISC and Brew City Match are playing, is that it's helping us see and connect all those different parts.
For sure. Well, thank you, Gina. Appreciate you. We are going to get to wrapping up here right now. One thing that we didn't mention, actually, guys over at New Life, can you show this off? One thing that we did, so speaking of the butterfly effect, New Life actually bought for all of its young people jogger sweatpants from Classic with a New Life logo on it. So again, that happened because we decided to walk to the Tandem to think. We bumped into Classic. While we were developing that tour, I'd come back every couple of weeks and I'd see Tamisha had a new Classic hoodie on. So actually the young people themselves were spending their paychecks at Classic. They love the brand so much that New Life always has they have good track jackets and good looking gear for their young people. They decided to invest in a few boxes of sweatpants for temperatures when they're not like they are right now. So butterfly effect, thank you all for being a part of kind of this building this idea together. And I'm going to hand it now off to Beth, who has some announcements about where these next steps of the butterfly effect will take us.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thanks for facilitating this conversation, and thanks to all of our guests today for speaking and sharing your stories. I think it's terrific that this initial investment from JP Morgan Chase has through the pop-up shop initiative has been able to blossom into this larger investment that we're seeing through Brew City Match. And we're seeing these commercial properties being redeveloped. We're seeing these small businesses find their space to build their long-term dream. And as Adam and Theo and others have mentioned on the call today, that wouldn't be possible without all of our partners. So thanks everybody for the work that they're doing. It really I think it's a struggle to collaborate in Milwaukee, and I think we're figuring it out, and we're making it a model that others can look to, and we're helping to garner additional investment. Local philanthropy is seeing that and to invest in it as well. So we're going to continue. Our third round here is launching tomorrow, July 10th at brewcitymatch.com. You can also follow Brew City Match on Facebook and Instagram. We just announced the winners of round 2. So we had 38 businesses and commercial properties that we're investing in through round 2. That full list of winners is also up on the Brew City Match website. I think a few of those folks are on the call today, so congratulations. It's a competitive process, and we really vet the businesses to ensure that they can be successful and sustained in the long term. And so it's a lot of work, and I want to acknowledge that, especially during COVID when we couldn't bring people together and gather and celebrate in person. And then, so we'll be announcing the next round launches tomorrow. The deadline will be August 10th for applications. The program is really broken down into 4 tracks: business planning, which we work with WIBIC on through a business planning course; space track, which we work with the bids in the city of Milwaukee to identify vacant spaces and then match businesses with those vacant; a cash track, where we provide financing to small businesses as well as some mini grants; and then a track for commercial property owners, where we work to redevelop commercial properties, and then where there's availability, we also match them with tenants. So we're helping to make sure that the physical landscape is changing in these corridors, but then they're matching with tenants that are really linked to the corridors that they're working in. So we really want to call upon everybody on this call to stay in the loop about what's going on with the third round, to promote it to business owners that might be interested in the program, and or commercial property owners in the 4 neighborhoods that we work in. We work within the Near West Side, Clark Square, North Avenue, and Fond du Lac, as well as Bronzeville and Historic King Drive. So those are the 4 neighborhoods right now. And please do help us spread the word. The more applications we have, the more businesses and commercial properties that we can invest in this next round. So with that, I just want to thank everybody. We were able to we almost made it on time. There were so many great stories to share.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys sticking with us. And Adam, any final closing thoughts?
No, I mean, thank you for inviting me to do this. I think I'm constantly both challenged by Milwaukee and falling in love with Milwaukee. And I think the kind of energy that comes out of programs like this, and the incredible amount of behind the scenes work that is required. I mean, us walking from New Life to Tandem, Lisk was an initial investor in the Wally Schmidt building. Brew City Match made it possible for there to be retail on Fond du Lac. I just get to stumble into the incredible stuff that happens in the city all the time. And it's not lost on me how much really hard work and deep investment and probably headaches that it requires to make this city the wonderful place that it is. So thank you everyone who was involved in this stuff, especially Beth and the team that runs Brew City Match. It's such a great gift to the city. So are there any questions people can, yeah, we have been recording. If anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat. I'm going to be back in 1 second.
Yeah, and I'll stay on to answer any questions people have, especially if they want to know more specifics. And we'll also be announcing some info sessions in the near future on social media. So, and yeah, thanks for the kudos in the chat. And yes, thanks to all the partners again. And everybody have a great weekend. But yeah, I'll stay here, and if people have questions, I'm happy to have a conversation. Wonder if I can unmute everyone. I'm going to try to do that since we're a smaller group now. Looks like I have to go person by person. So, allow everybody to unmute themselves. So if you have a question, you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think we're pretty safe on Zoom bombers by now. Anyone waited an hour and 8 minutes to Zoom bomb, that would be.
Beth.
Hi, Marcia.
Hi, Beth. That was terrific, everybody. I was glad to have joined you. I have on my calendar that there's a LISC meeting today at 3. Is that accurate?
Next Thursday.
Oh, okay.
So they should be sending out some things. So Marcia's on our board, everyone. So thank you for your guidance and insights.
I'm glad to have joined you.
I think you have the option to unmute yourselves now if anybody else has questions or just wants to make a comment.
Well, I wanted to say thank you. I was a part of Brew City Match the first round, I think, and I did the business planning track, and now I'm pursuing it full time. So I never would have.
That's awesome.
If I didn't have that back end, that support behind me. So thank you so much. And I was trying to wait for Adam to come back, but I guess I'll just kind of speak and hope that
he'll be back. Thanks, Amanda. Good luck with everything, and let us know how we can support you.
No problem. He made a really good point about like the history and everything. So I really love that you're hearing that information. Well, you guys care about that information, and then you care to disseminate that information with everybody, and then do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're set up the way that we are, because we really want to make sure that we're doing investment differently, and we're really being intentional and thoughtful about the way that we're building our neighborhoods and supporting small businesses in our neighborhoods.
Last comment, and then I'll leave you guys. But my family been in this in 53206, that zip code, since like the 1940s. And so I kind of knew that like this used to be a prosperous neighborhood, and then kind of we've been here for generations, literally in this house, and so we kind of seen the decline. But we always knew like it was a chance for us to come back if we had opportunities to pursue businesses at the same rate that they were before. But a lot of the time, we just kind of knew that there wasn't like that we would be denied for like funding and stuff. So I really appreciate this program a lot. And then the fact that like Adam was doing tours and stuff, I just think that's amazing.
That's Adam on his own, but we love to work with partners like Adam who are so thoughtful about how they approach community. So Amanda commented on really appreciating the history and the photos and information you shared, and how that really resonated with her, and she was really grateful that we were that thoughtful about being willing to share that out to folks and make sure that that's part of the conversation.
Thank you. You guys probably didn't catch this, but I was at New Life the whole time I was just in the next room from them. But no, and absolutely, that's like part of, for me, it's stuff. I grew up in the city. I grew up going to great public schools and didn't learn most of the stories I care most about now. So that's an important part of like making sure that young people like Destiny, Elton, Tamisha get a chance to learn them, in addition to just folks in general. Because I mean, these can really change how you move through the city, just knowing that there's a past to our problems. That helps us see a way forward. So cool. All right, I gotta go. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, New Life. We appreciate you so much.
Bye. Thanks for
Bye.
Is Caitlin still on?
No. Bye-bye.